It is November 24th, 1971. You walk into Portland International Airport wearing a dark business suit, a white shirt, and a thin black tie. You do not attract attention. You do not appear nervous. You simply approach the Northwest Orient Airlines counter, pay cash for a one-way ticket to Seattle, and give the clerk a name, Dan Cooper. Within hours, you will hijack an airplane, collect $200,000, and leap into a stormy night. Nobody will ever prove who you were. Nobody will ever prove where you landed. And nobody will ever prove whether you survived. This is your life as D.B Cooper. Chapter 1. The Ordinary Passenger. You board Northwest Orient Flight 305 with 36 other passengers. The flight from Portland to Seattle should take approximately 30 minutes. You sit near the back of the Boeing 727, place your briefcase beside you, and order a bourbon and soda. To everyone around you, you are just another middle-aged businessman traveling before Thanksgiving. But shortly after 3 p.m., you hand a note to a flight attendant. At first, the small piece of paper does not appear important. Then you quietly tell her that she should read it. The message says you have a bomb. You ask her to sit beside you. When she does, you partially open your briefcase. Inside, she sees wires and several red-colored sticks. Whether the device is real has never been proven, but nobody aboard the plane is willing to take that chance. You give the flight attendant your demands. You want $200,000 in $20 bills. You want 4 parachutes, and you want everything ready when the plane reaches Seattle. The flight crew contacts authorities, and the FBI begins tracking the situation while Flight 305 remains in the air. Meanwhile, the passengers have no idea that the quiet man sitting behind them has taken control of the plane. Chapter 2. The Exchange. When the aircraft finally lands in Seattle, your demands are waiting. A bag containing $200,000 is brought aboard. So are 4 parachutes. In exchange, you release all 36 passengers and part of the crew. The passengers escape safely, but several crew members must remain aboard. Now you give the pilots a new command. Take the plane toward Mexico City. There has always been speculation about why you requested 4 parachutes. Perhaps you wanted authorities to believe you planned to force hostages to jump with you. If they believed innocent people would be using the parachutes, they would be less likely to sabotage them. But that is only a theory. Your actual plan remains unknown. The aircraft prepares to take off again. Outside, darkness has fallen over Washington. The weather is cold, wet, and windy. You are dressed in a business suit, not survival clothing. Ahead of you are miles of forests, rivers, and rough terrain, but you still intend to jump. Chapter 3. The Final Flight. Flight 305 leaves Seattle with you and the remaining crew aboard. The pilots begin flying south toward the planned refueling stop in Reno, Nevada. You remain in the passenger cabin while the crew stays toward the front of the plane. At some point, you remove your black tie and leave it behind. Decades later, investigators will recover DNA from it, but it will not reveal your identity. You begin preparing the ransom money. You cut the cord from one of the parachutes and use it to secure the cash. Of the 4 parachutes delivered to the plane, you leave 2 behind and take 2 with you. One of the 2 you take is an unusable training reserve that has been sewn shut. Did you realize that? Investigators have never known. A little after 8 p.m., somewhere between Seattle and Reno, you lower the Boeing 727's rear staircase. Cold air tears through the back of the aircraft. Below you is almost complete darkness. You cannot clearly see where you are going to land. Your parachute cannot be steered effectively, and the wind may carry you far away from your intended landing area. You attach the money, step toward the edge, and jump. The crew does not see you leave. They only know that something has changed. When the plane eventually lands safely in Reno, armed authorities surround it. They search the cabin. You are gone. The ransom is gone. Only a few items, including your abandoned tie and 2 parachutes, remain behind. D.B Cooper has disappeared. Chapter 4. The Search. The FBI gives the investigation a name, NORJAC, short for Northwest Hijacking. Agents search the possible landing zone. They interview witnesses, examine evidence from the aircraft, and track leads across the United States. But investigators face an enormous problem. Nobody knows exactly when you jumped. Nobody knows exactly where you landed. And Dan Cooper is almost certainly not your real name. Within 5 years, the FBI considers more than 800 suspects. Some appear promising. Most are quickly eliminated. One of the most famous suspects is Richard Floyd McCoy. Less than 5 months after your disappearance, McCoy carries out a remarkably similar hijacking and escapes from another plane using a parachute. He is eventually captured. The similarities are impossible to ignore, but the FBI rules him out. His appearance does not match the descriptions independently provided by two flight attendants, and investigators identify other differences. Still, amateur investigators continue debating his possible connection decades later. Then, 9 years after the hijacking, the case receives its strangest clue. Chapter 5: The Money. In February 1980, an 8-year-old boy named Brian Ingram is playing along the Columbia River in Washington. Buried in the sand, he discovers several deteriorating bundles of $20 bills. The total is approximately $5,800. The FBI checks the serial numbers. They match the ransom money given to you aboard Flight 305. For the first time since your jump, part of your stolen money has appeared. But the discovery creates more questions than answers. How did it reach the river? Did you lose the money during your jump? Did you land in the water? Was it carried downstream? Or did somebody deliberately bury it years later? The remaining $194,200 has never been recovered. No confirmed ransom bill has ever appeared in circulation. Chapter 6: Did you survive? The FBI has long considered it possible that you died during the jump. The evidence suggests you were not an expert skydiver. You jumped at night, during dangerous weather, over heavily wooded terrain. You wore unsuitable clothing and used a parachute that could not be properly steered. Even a highly trained skydiver could have been killed under those conditions. But no confirmed body was ever discovered. No confirmed parachute was found. No clothing, briefcase, or money bag was recovered. If you survived, you may have walked out of the wilderness and quietly returned to an ordinary life. If you died, the forest may have hidden the evidence before investigators ever reached the correct location. There is one final twist. The man who purchased the ticket called himself D.B Cooper. The initials D.B. came from a mistake in early news reporting. The most famous aircraft hijacker in American history became known by a name he never actually used. In 2016, after decades of investigating thousands of tips, the FBI redirected its resources to other cases. Your identity remains unknown. Your final landing place remains unknown. And your fate remains unknown. So now, the case is yours to decide. Did D.B. Cooper die during the jump? Or did he disappear with one of the most daring escapes in American history? Tell me your theory in the comments. And subscribe to Case Left Open, because every case leaves something behind.